team, welcome back to the Process Podcast. Joining me in the studio today is Anthony Haynes. Ant, how are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I am great. Why are you great?
Just another day in paradise. Weekend's rolled around. This is the first weekend without the Crossfit Open, so a little bit less stressful for us in here. And it's quarterfinal simulation, which is always fun. So we've got a week before quarterfinals rolls around, and it's always a fun time of year.
How's your day one of simulations gone?
Yeah, not bad. We had like a long aerobic test to start, which is commonly seen, I guess, in the quarterfinal style workouts. And we had like a heavy gymnastic and barbell workout as well.
Awesome. You feeling good?
Feel pretty good. Yeah, I've been. I just got back from a competition in Dubai, which has got nothing to do with CrossFit. I was there for 23.3, but the main competition was essentially an American Ninja Warrior team competition, which was sick. It was really cool. But Dubai is not a short flight, and there's also a 4-hour time difference. And the flight was at a pretty bad time for me. But I feel like I'm getting over that now. I think hopefully tonight will be the last night that I get any of that stuff out. Then next week is taper week, and then into the quarterfinals.
What did you love about the Gov Games competition?
I mean, Dubai is just like everything that's bigger is better. So they put a lot of money into it. On top of that, just like they create a lot of hype behind it as well. I think when I got to Dubai, everyone said they hadn't heard anything about it. But on the first day that I landed, I saw 3 massive billboards, like huge billboards around the city. I heard it on the radio twice, both in Arabic and also in English. And, you know, just like the Instagram just started going crazy with stuff on it, creating hype around it. And it's just a really awesome event. It's something that I've always seen on TV and be like, I'd love to do something like that. And I've been actually hassling one of our members on the process, Alex Millington, because he's done it for the last few years on the Shakes team. And I was like, whatever it takes, like, get me into the Gov Games. I don't care what team I'm on. I just want to be a part of it. And they happened to open up an international sector this year. So they got 3 different sectors: the community, which is what Alex is in. Anyone can enter a team into that if you pay enough money for it. The government sector, which is like fire services, electrical services, police and all that sort of stuff. Against each other, there's loads of different teams in there, and there's qualifying for those 2 divisions. And then there's an international division, which is what I was in. So we were actually representing the UK, and I had me and 5 other lads I'd never met before. Those guys, all 5 of them are like YouTube presenters, or they're on YouTube, or they're on Instagram, and they have social following. And even that just for me was pretty cool to hear about and listen to from those guys, from their angle. But really cool to meet up with 5 new people I've never met. Became really good friends with them. Spent a week with them. And unfortunately, we were 2 places short out of 28 from making the final. Only 4 teams out of the 28 made the final. And pretty good for like a bunch of misfits to come together and get pretty close to doing that, especially against top CrossFitters, top ultra runners, top American Ninja Warrior athletes.
Did you end up beating Chandler Smith, Noah Olsen's team?
We beat Rasmus Anderson and Hunter McIntyre's team, and we beat Noah Olsen, Chandler Smith, Will Murad, and Street Horner's team.
Nice.
Fucking stuck it.
Can I ask, like, were you nervous doing some of those obstacles? Because I mean, like, I watched the viewing, because I think you guys are actually all competing at the same time.
Yeah, so
right?
basically
they would just basically pick
7
one.
obstacles. Yeah,
they would pick one obstacle
and just film it.
And mainly film the team representing Dubai. It doesn't matter where they were, if they were first or fourth.
Yes.
But you guys did get a couple of moments of airtime.
Yeah.
But I thought, number one, that the design of the obstacles was unbelievable.
Yeah. I actually think American Ninja Warrior, the people who set this up.
Ah, okay. I was just thinking like how they could come up with some of the ideas and the concepts.
Yeah.
Some of them are actually really simple, but still like really required a lot of teamwork.
Yeah.
Challenge, like problem solving. Some of them, like, the puzzle where you had to, like, someone had to direct and you had to pull the thing through. It was
we absolutely smashed that one.
Just really cool though. It's just really cool, like, outside the box thinking.
Yeah.
But also some of them were really hard.
Yes.
So were there any obstacles that you failed? Did you fail any?
Personally?
Yeah.
No, I got through all of them. The one that I actually screwed up is a lache is the terminology of like swinging your body weights from one thing to the next. So that was probably the one that I was most worried about.
The angle and then the flat
so it was like
and the angle.
angled and then flat one chains,
Yeah,
and then
chains,
angle. The 2 angled ones are fixed.
Yeah.
I
had a really good laugh at lots of teams trying to get across that.
Actual attempts were pathetic for some people, but it was a good laugh. I actually got across on the first time, and I got to the end, and as I was about to, if you're literally at the end of the angled board, my feet are touching the mat, my toes are on the mat. And as I dropped down, normally if there's someone there, so Ed, one of my partners, was on the mat already. He'd already gone cross, and so did Callum. And I put my hand out till I for him to grab me. And as I was letting go, the guy's like, "No hands, don't help him." So I literally put my feet down and just going, "Whoa!" And you just let back into the water. I was like, "Fuck!" I literally done the whole obstacle, and obviously you're soaking wet.
Then you're wet. Yeah.
Way harder. And then.
But then the next person can go before you go.
Yeah,
again,
so because there's 3 boards, you can only have one person on each board. So if you want, you can have 3 people in the air at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically each they call it heats, right? But each obstacle, there's 3 stages to each obstacle. So one obstacle, for example, was the lasso thing where you got to throw it over and pull the board down.
Did you do that for your team?
Rob got the first one, I got the second one, and Ed got the third one.
Nice.
We were just getting frustrated, so we're just swapping in and out.
Yeah.
And then the next thing was the puzzle thing that you were talking about. So I stood in the middle, and we kind of all wiggled it about. And then the last bit of that was there was a wobble board, but if it tipped too much one way, you either fell off or a buzzer went off. But there was also a secret buzzer. There were 3 secret buzzers across the 7 heats, right? So if you hit that extra buzzer, you get 5 extra points. So there was a buzzer on the left side of this wobbly board. So we basically, we tried to do it and we screwed it up straight away. And I said, let's just sprint across as fast as you can. 2 people on either side to keep it level. So me and another guy went across. The next 2 guys went across, and the last 2 we went across. And Ed, who's the smallest guy, but super athletic, super nimble, just bent down, slapped it, and ran across. A lot of teams actually really struggled with that one, but we got across that pretty quick. So that's done in 3 stages. So each stage gives you 5 points.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a really cool event, though.
Would you do it again?
Absolutely, I definitely do it again.
Nice. Okay, well let's switch gears a little bit here because
Enough of the Gov Games.
Nothing Gov Games. Although I would highly recommend any listeners go onto YouTube, type in Gov Games 2023. Some really impressive feats of athleticism, some cool teamwork, but also some very enjoyable fails from lots of teams. I mean, I'm sure I'd be one of those people failing as well. Let's talk about the CrossFit Open.
Yeah.
So we just finished 3 weeks. We had some pretty big changes this year. Very different set of tests to last year. My first question to you is, what did you think about the tests overall? What's your quick fire? Did you like him? Did you hate him? Did you love him?
I liked it. Yeah, I liked it. And I think my quick fire answer would be, I liked it. I thought it was a pretty balanced set of tests, especially compared to last year. And I'm comparing it to last year because it was Adrian Boston's first year doing it last year.
So what did you feel was not balanced about the 2022 CrossFit Open?
Very similar time domains for all 3 workouts that they had. And not much complexity with the workouts. When I say complexity, I'm talking about the barbell lifts. So they had a heavy deadlift, which really wasn't that heavy when you compare it to the relative field who's lifting it. And I guess a 60 kg thruster was the most complex movement that we would have seen. But again, relative to what you're trying to find the fittest person on earth, it probably wasn't actually that complex at all.
Well, I think even with that though, the CrossFit Open isn't really trying to find the fittest person on the earth, right? Because it's a qualifying round. I know technically it is a part of the overall structure, but they're not necessarily saying the person who wins the Open is also the person who's going to win the CrossFit Games. Yeah, it's kind of just that qualifying bit. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, so I mean, again, it's hard to also judge the Open until you see the entire season. Yeah. So but I think this year compared to last is a much more balanced set of tests. I like the inclusion of running and shuttle runs in it. Yeah. I actually like the inclusion of the burpee pull-up. It's another new movement that we hadn't seen before. And I like the inclusion of more complexity across 3 of the workouts, I guess. Yeah. So heavy thruster in the second one. You had the muscle-ups in the first one, if you got there. And then you also had the a heavier snatch in the last one and strict handstand push-ups with a new standard. Yeah.
I would say that as a whole, more capable or higher level CrossFitters were more happy with the test this year than last year. I think last year, the inclusivity means that it meant that if you had, if you were aerobically quite fit and you had a decent set of skills, you'd probably finish quite high on the leaderboard at the end of 3 weeks. This year, you had to be strong. You had to have absolute strength speed, so the thrust to 1 rep max. you had to be able to be aerobic and strong. So I guess that would be like fatigue repeatability, or sorry, not fatigue, like battery style weightlifting for the last one. But then you also had things like strict handstand push-ups, which is like a hard relative strength test. And then you had muscle ups in the first workout. I did really love the design of the workout. So I loved that muscle ups and strict handstand push-ups being the open. There was like a qualifier to get there. So you had to earn the right to do the movement already. So it still allowed people to have a good workout before getting to that point, potentially being bottleneck.
Front loading him.
Exactly. So a lot of people saw the muscle ups like, oh, muscle ups and the first workout, that's not inclusive, but most people couldn't even get to muscle ups in the first place. As a weaker athlete, I'm never that pumped about seeing full points, 1/4 of the test being awarded to just one lift. But at the end of the day, that's just a facet of the sport. Like, you have to be strong. And so I think it's totally fine and a good thing to be testing a 1 rep max test. And then
I like that the 1 rep max test was different to a clean and jerk and a snatch as well.
I did
regularly see.
It definitely allowed for the less talented, I guess, the less technical athlete to still score high on the leaderboard.
Yeah.
Because I guess a clean and jerk, there's a big technical nuance when you start to get towards like heavier loads. A thruster, there's probably less technicality. So that definitely spiced up the leaderboard a lot, because you had people who probably weren't, maybe not be very highly capable CrossFitters, not do that well in the first workout and the last workout, but execute really high on a thruster.
Yeah.
4 test versus 3 test, I like that as well.
Yeah.
Again, like I don't see why we don't do that more. In 3 workouts or 3 weeks, you could still be testing 6 events. You could be making every single workout a 2-part workout in some way, shape or form. And I like the idea of giving people more scoring opportunities over 3 weaks.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I do prefer it being a 3-week versus a 5-week, which is what we used to see. I like that. I also agree that it probably makes sense to have a few more tests. And I think that also not only allows a broader set of tests and to test more facets of fitness, but it also allows the people, your main audience, the people who go into the affiliates every single day, to then, I guess, earmark their fitness a bit better as well. Versus like, oh, I only had 3 tests this year, so I sucked at fitness this year. And you're like, oh, and as a coach, you're like trying to tell these people like, no, it's just the test that came up. But if there was 5 or 6 tests over the 3 weeks, there's a lot more validity to what you're saying, and you can actually use it as a much better litmus test, if that makes sense, over the year. No,
I definitely see that. I think it's got to be such a hard job as a programmer. I think also as well, people who are sitting there saying it wasn't a balanced set of tests, when you've only got 3 weeks, you're never going to have a fully balanced set of tests.
Yeah.
I would say every program, or programming for any event, I should say, or competition, is always going to have a bias. And it's also totally okay to have a bias.
Yeah.
I think organizations like OPEX, who are making a push for Olympics with the Functional Fitness Foundation, they're trying to standardize testing in a way, trying to make it more of a balanced set of tests by saying that you have to have X number of criteria in each set of tests.
Yeah.
But it's still not balanced.
Yeah.
It's never going to be perfectly balanced. And that's kind of the beauty of the sport, I think, is that at the end of the day, the athlete who has less holes in their game and is more capable and well-rounded is going to be the athlete that it succeeds more.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think from an affiliate standpoint, it was probably the most challenging year we've had in terms of like room setup and floor layout.
Yeah.
I'm all for having the floor plans and having taped areas to say that an athlete must start here, just to try and even out the leaderboard a little bit. Sorry, to just make it more fair.
Playing field, yeah.
Playing field, that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you. Because I do think there is a massive advantage to the athlete who thinks outside the box and sets up a station, or has the ability to set up a station to shave, valuable seconds in transitions and things like that.
Yeah.
And if you just make that fair, then it's becoming more of a test of fitness and capacity. So I do like that. But I think just having so many moving parts and needing so many different pieces of equipment meant that it was...
Especially the first workout.
It was hard, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, the first workout was definitely challenging. I think even putting a pull-up bar with a burpee with a shuttle run was going to be hard for a lot of affiliates. We were lucky that we could run under the pull-up bars like they did in the demonstration. There's a lot of gyms who can't do that, and so it's just valuable seconds lost. If you made the shuttle run workout, if you partnered the shuttle runs with something like a barbell or a dumbbell, then you wouldn't be biased based on space. I mean, some people may say, I still don't have space to do that, but it would make it a lot more of an even playing field.
Yeah, of course.
Do also think the last workout, and again, this is the tough balancing act that the programmer has to always think about in any competition, is like making it a good test, but also making it fun, making it engaging, making it television worthy, making it entertaining. Like you do have to think about all those things, I think. And I do think the last workout of the Open has typically always been like inclusive. You know, we've had things like no time caps. Yeah. Everyone finishes, everyone can do it. Everyone has this like last hurrah. And I felt like this year was a really great workout for athletes who made it past the 6 minute cutoff. Yeah. But for everyone who didn't, which was the vast majority of the world, it was a kind of like anticlimactic end. Yeah. I felt a little bit to the Open. Yeah. You know, a lot of people kind of like dragged their feet into the gym, were like, this is only going to be a 6 minute workout for me. And to say like, you know, it's still a hard 6 minutes and it's still a challenging 6 minutes. And I think lots of people learned a lot about themselves and their ability levels in that last workout. But it's just always kind of like a sour ending when you have a whole community working out together and then one person progresses through the 6 minutes, you know, and everyone's just kind of sat there feeling like they weren't successful.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, again, it's hard to say like what's a good workout, what's a bad workout, because you got to really fit affiliate and you get everyone through to 9 or 12 minutes. It's a different story. But yeah, I agree. It's especially with the complexity of a snatch and then into the strict handstand push-up. It was maybe a little bit flat compared to other workouts that you've seen in the past where it's thrusters and burpees and you just have to finish it. Yeah. Although thank God that didn't happen again, or else it would have been there for a long time for some affiliates, I'm sure.
I think what's cool, and maybe I'm jumping the gun a bit with this, but now this is the second Open that Bosman has been, you know, controlling or driving, is because having two very, very different Opens really opens it massively for year 3. Yeah. So we could have another repeat of either of those 2 years. We can have something completely different. We have a combination of both. And I think as a programmer, it kind of makes it more fun. Yeah. In an honest way as well, it kind of takes the pressure off as well, to know that now it's so wide open. The expectations from the people are probably a little bit less, you know, they're a little bit more understandable, to be like, look, every year we program based on what the data tells us, right? So the data tells us before this year was that we're going to have 3 tests. We're not going to need to develop, you know, top end strength. We're not going to have an isolated strength test. So therefore, let's go all in a little bit more, or a little bit more of a bias towards conditioning. And then suddenly a 1 rep max comes up. Yeah. So that means next year, and a heavy barbell in a fatigue based setting. Yeah. So now next year, we're going to have to basically take those 2 years of data, you know, have some hunches and estimations as to what might come up, and then program based on that. But I think really at the end of the day, we're going to have to prepare people for everything. For sure. Even the Open's going to be high skill now, like we know that. Yeah. Well, I mean, you say that, and there might be dumbbell snatches and burpee box jump overs. Yeah. I actually really like the fact that they did a retest as well. Me too. Especially for us people that have been doing this for, you know, at least the 8 years or 9 years apart from the tests. So that was really cool to see. And apart from you and RJ, I think everyone else in the world got fitter. Yeah. Okay, I think that brings us on to my next question, which is, did you feel prepared for the test this year? Yeah, I think I did. I think so. Obviously, for people who don't know, I follow the Process Programming Elite track, which basically prepares people for the semifinals and games. We've been doing a ton of shuttle runs. We've been doing a ton of fatigue-based pull-ups and fatigue-based burpees, not specifically burpee pull-ups, but, you know, it's a fairly novel movement, which you can kind of pick up pretty quick. There's a few small skill elements to it, or small nuances to be more efficient, but generally speaking, it's just a burpee with a jump at the top. We've been doing a lot of fatigue-based muscle-ups as well, which is essentially that first workout. A lot of like moderate barbell cycling. So again, the first workout, toes to bar. You know, I think I actually felt very prepared going into these. Wall walking, strict handstand push-ups. Yeah, there's nothing that like I saw and I was like, oh shit, like I haven't done my homework on this, which was a nice feeling. But you know, thinking back to previous years, I don't think there's many things where I'm like, oh god, like here we go, this is gonna be a complete mess. So yeah, I felt pretty confident going in, and felt good about it, and happy enough just to kind of have a crack at each one and just see how it went, and then just move on. Yeah, I think I am. In terms of the movements, I felt prepared with everything. My own lack of preparation was just not doing enough hard stuff. Intensity. And that's a massive realization takeaway from this year's Open is that I've shied away from the intensity for quite a long time, and I probably have in my own head reason for that. I think the biggest one being the pandemic and putting my time and energy towards the business and my professional career, and to give me as much energy to do that stuff, it meant that I had to take away something from the training space. I still train really consistently. I still expose myself to all the movements. I still would say I progress within the sport of CrossFit, but at a much slower rate to perhaps what I've done in the past. And I just think the first workout for me was probably my most disappointing open workout I think I've ever done. And it wasn't because of lack of ability. It was just because I just didn't attack the workout. And the intensity that I hit that first workout in was reflective of the intensity of pretty much most of my training in the year leading up to it. Which is that I can do all the movements. I have a good awareness. I have good awareness of pacing. I built the strategy, but I didn't know what I was really capable of. And as soon as I came into week 2, I was like, I can push a lot harder than I think I can. And then coming into week 3, I said the same thing. Like, I can push a lot harder than I think I can. But it took 1 week of the CrossFit Open to make me realize and remind me. And so it's kind of fired me up for next season to be like, okay, an off season is still really important, but come November, December time, I need to make that decision to start to push a bit more, because I do want to use things like the CrossFit Open to learn something about myself. That's why I do it. I think it's super important, and to do hard physical tasks, hard mental tasks is like a very important part of my life. So I'm going to set myself up for success better next year by preparing for the intensity of the Open earlier.
I think for me, I was actually pretty happy with how the first workout went. And then the second workout, I actually had a lot more to give in the second workout, which I guess is a little bit disappointing. For the first part. Yeah, for the first part. I think my second part is probably where I'm at. But for the first part, I had a lot more to give. Just, again, that would be probably the only thing that we haven't done much of, is like a fatigue-based 1 rep max of whatever it might be. So like I've just kept a lot in the tank for it, and then realized about 3 minutes into my 5 minutes for the thruster that actually I'm totally fine now. Felt very recovered.
I also do think though that when I saw burpee pull-ups and shuttle runs, I thought it was going to hurt a lot more. I thought there was going to be a lot more like local muscle endurance fatigue and things like the lower back and the legs. I thought my arms might blow up, but I actually didn't feel hardly anything in my upper body. And actually my legs didn't really feel anything either.
I just had a sore left glute the next day.
Same turns, I think aerobically it was quite challenging, but I would say pretty much everyone who did that workout, I think would say, the more elite athletes would say that they finished that first one and had more to give.
And I think also for that workout, especially just sitting back and letting people go first and just seeing them was because again, a very, very low skill workout. If you can do a couple of strict pull-ups, you can still do very well because it's a jumping pull-up, right? So I think just sitting back and then seeing how far people were getting relative to Krenikov and Vellner, you're like, oh shit, it's actually not that hard, and I could probably beat Vellner and Krenikov in this workout, which a lot of people in the world ended up doing. And I think normally when you see like a 23.1, you don't normally see people beating the athletes who do the open workout. Well, they get pretty close, but the athletes doing it are like the top dogs. And this time that was totally different.
And I think that's the cool thing about having new movements in the open. Is like you put thrusters, pull-ups, burpees, box jumps, dumbbell snatches. Like everyone's done iterations of those movements millions of times. So people are going to be probably a lot more accurate on a first attempt to actually hitting what they're capable of hitting. But when you throw a new movement in there and a new combination of movements,
figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. There's just that the gaming, the pacing, the strategies are a lot more off on the first attempt. And I would say this is probably the only open workout since I can ever remember where I didn't do it on the Friday or Saturday because I was actually sick. I kind of got a bit of like a tummy bug on the Wednesday. And so I had to wait till Monday. And by the time I came in on Monday, having watched you guys all do it, having watched our whole community do it, having watched people online do it, I had a completely different mindset going into the workout than I would have had I done it on the Friday. So I definitely think sometimes there is a massive advantage to waiting and doing it later. What I would say that the disadvantage was like the anxiety and the headspace that was occupying my mind all weekend, knowing that I hadn't done the workout yet. And so no, when you do the workout and you bank one in, and if you're going to do a redo, like it's just a very different headspace.
Yeah, for sure.
But I definitely think that was one workout where there's a big advantage waiting to see and watch other people go. Okay, so that was about feeling prepared for the tests. My next question is, are you happy with your execution of each workout?
Workout 1, yes, 23.1. Happy with the execution. Happy with my comparison to 2014. Could probably squeak out a couple more reps here and there, but I think relatively pretty happy. There's a couple things I'd change. Maybe I'd just break the 3 sets of muscles versus a 4. And that's about it, really. The 23.2 just said I could definitely have pushed harder in the first part. I think my second part B, was fairly honest of where I am. But part A could have pushed harder because the residual fatigue wasn't actually that bad when it went into the next 5 minutes. And then for 23.3, that was just a bit of a mess on my end. Ended up doing it in Dubai the day after Gov Games for me. Didn't feel any fatigue carry over from that, but the setup of where I was, it was a great gym, an amazing place, did it with some amazing people and athletes. But when you have a lot of big personalities in the room and a lot of people who take the sport very seriously, it becomes very hard to prepare yourself. And especially when out of the 12 to 14 CrossFitters going, I was one of 3 judges who were qualified. So I basically had to stand there and judge everyone. Ended up being on my feet for like 3 hours. Some athletes took like 45 minutes to do a 12-minute workout. And then it's my turn to go. I'm like, oh shit, like I don't feel ready for this. That's just an excuse, but that's not ideal. And then I went back to do it 2 days later in the next gym. That next gym, as I turned up that day, again, my fault. I should have checked ahead of time and seen what was available in the gym. And I was told, just go and do it. It'll be totally fine. There's tape there. There's tape measure there. And the barbell's there. That's all I need. Turned up. I didn't have my skipping rope because it was in my mate's car. My fault. Didn't have my belt with me, which I might sometimes wear. I didn't wear it, but just something I'd forgotten again. There was only one barbell. And there was 6 people there waiting to do 23.3. And there's one barbell because they don't have change plates there. And everything's in kilos apart from one set of plates. So they had 2 45s, a 25 pound. So then I had to then wait for people to go again. And I was like, oh God, I got a flight in 2 hours time. Again, just a mess. And then my last attempt is basically I came off a 9-hour flight from Dubai. Came straight
through the night, by the way.
Yeah, I didn't sleep a wink because I was just frustrated at my attempts. I didn't care about the leaderboard, honestly. I was more just frustrated at myself for allowing myself to be in those positions. And I knew the effort that I put into the workouts, the result ended up being a fair reflection, I guess. But the effort that I put into the workout and the prep that I did before it was not what I'm proud of, what I would say I'd be proud of. So came back, did it at Coastal at like 6 a.m, straight off a flight, had my suitcase there and everything, just unpacked it and just got straight in, had a C4 and then went into the workout. Still got a very similar score. The tiebreak was much faster, but similar score on the last set of snatches. But like just felt a lot better about doing it. Felt my warm-up was better. Felt my execution of the workout was better. I just felt better about myself doing it. So although it's the same score essentially on the leaderboard, yeah, just the execution of it felt better.
Nice. Yeah, I would say that I've talked about workout 1 already, not happy with my execution.
Yeah.
And you know what? I've actually used this excuse of saying that I don't redo open workouts. And I think when I first made the rule to myself to not redo open workouts was because I was going through a transition of trying to work on my mindset around the CrossFit Open, where I'd placed so much, I created a lot of stress and anxiety around things like the leaderboard. This is back in kind of 2014, 15 when I was trying to qualify to things like regionals. And I kind of made it a rule that it's like, I have one attempt. And I also wanted to get better at competing in real life in in-house arena-based competitions. Yeah. And often you don't get chances to practice workouts. Sometimes you just find out in the moment. I wanted to get better at that skill. So me and my coach at the time said, right, I'm going to set myself a challenge of not redoing a workout, which means that I need to plan a strategy. So back then I would do on the Friday, I would do like a walkthrough or run through, think about it, get a feel for the movements, build a strategy, come in on Saturday and hit it. And actually served me really well for lots of years. And I think I just kind of held on to that rule, brought it into this year and said, all right, I'm not going to do redos anymore. That's my golden rule.
Yeah.
But if I'm honest with myself, I think I was actually just setting that rule now because I just didn't want to hurt.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, do one workout, only kind of have to hurt once and not have to do it again. Partly is also preservation of my body, because I know that when I start redoing workouts, that's double the amount of high intensity volume, and that kind of messes me up, especially when the rest of the year I haven't been preparing myself. So anyway, workout 1, wasn't happy. In hindsight, I wish I redid it. Yeah. Just to prove it to myself that I could do better, because I know that wasn't an accurate representation of my fitness.
Could you have redone it? Do you feel sore?
No, I really didn't feel actually sore at all after that workout. I just felt disappointed.
Because you were walking through it, that's why.
Probably because I was just walking through it. Yeah, I was just disappointed.
Yeah.
But then I'd kind of just stuck to my rule of no redos and just kind of moved on past it.
Yeah.
But all week it kind of ate at me. And of course the leaderboard did like have an impact. I always make this like nemesis leaderboard where just friends and people I've competed against in the past, doesn't matter how many years ago, they make it to my nemesis. I think I'm on nemesis 4.0 right now.
Yeah.
And like in a workout, which I should be technically, I think, quite good at, was not good for me.
Yeah.
And so that just hammered home the feeling of feeling disappointed.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to week 2. I was really happy with week 2 as well, considering that I felt sick going into it. So I had to push it back to Monday, but really happy with my execution. Happy with my thrusters. Thrusters is one of those things where, or a 1 rep max in something like a competition is one of those things where if you hit a PR, you're stoked and you always say you wish you did more.
Yeah.
Or you go for something, you fail it and you say, I wish I did less.
Yeah.
But actually I've never thrusted 100 kilograms. I think I've tried it lots of times. I know Ant has a photo he regularly posts on Instagram.
Remind me to send you the photo for this part of it. Ed trying to do a thruster at 100 kg.
So I've attempted a 100 kg thruster, I think like 4 times, and pretty much every time I get to the same place. My left arm's locked out, my right arm's like at my forehead. So I thought this was going to be the time. I thrusted 94 and was like, this is it. Like, this is happening, because 94 flew up.
Did it actually fly up?
Actually flew up.
Okay.
Oh, I can give you the video after.
Did you hit depth in your squat?
Probably not.
Okay.
No, I definitely hit depth on my squat. Actually, I hit depth on all my squats this year.
Okay.
That's my squat therapy every morning paying off.
Sure.
So I was like 100. Anyway, I didn't hit 100. And obviously the easy thing to say is after, should have gone 98, would have been better on leaderboard. But no, actually, I really wanted to hit 100. I'm very happy I tried it, and that's okay if I failed. So happy with that. And workout 3, first attempt. I think I gave it a good nudge. Strict handstand push-ups, never been a strong movement for me relative to my field of competition. So it's my biggest weakness.
Even with a trampoline under your head?
Even with a trampoline on my head.
Did you have a trampoline on the first attempt as well?
What Ant's referring to, before anyone thinks I'm actually cheating and putting a trampoline on my head, is I tried a double mat because I thought it would be softer on my neck, but in actual fact, Ant thinks it actually created a deficit and made it harder.
It's way harder.
Also hurt my wrist quite a lot.
Yeah, your wrist goes into so much extension as well.
So that was a bad idea, but anyhow, you live and you learn. But I did that first workout. Was actually very happy with my like focus and like my effort that I gave. I just had put my hands not in a good place. I'd gone fingertips away from the line, thinking that I should be further away from the wall, because I often have a tendency to like arch my back in a handstand push-up, and I thought I needed the space, otherwise I'd just be headbutting the wall the whole workout. And then having watching everyone else do it, and seeing everyone go thumbs and going for width rather than distance from the wall, I thought I didn't even try that. I tried 1 rep and it just hurt my wrist, but that's probably because I was using a soft mat underneath me. And so I was cycling in on Monday to work, and I was literally just saying to myself, I really want to try with this new technique and taking my hands wide. My body feels kind of good. And also like I'd realized at this point by week 3, like I'd regretted not redoing week 1. I'd regretted not really trying my hardest, kind of cruising a little bit in all the workouts, kind of regretted that. And I was like, I want this to be a test to myself to see if I can actually do something hard.
Where did you get to in the first attempt?
I got all those handstand push-ups, got the double unders, and then I had about 20 seconds to hit a snatch. And it's not, 185 pound snatch is normally quite a routine snatch for me. I wasn't scared of it at all, but it just got over my head and my shoulders just fried. I just couldn't lock it out. And that's probably fair, considering I literally just sprinted through my last dubs and ran to a bar and tried to hit it. So honestly, the whole redo was less about trying to improve on my score and more just like this mental challenge to myself to see if I can actually do that stuff anymore.
It's the same for me.
And which is why I totally resonate and understand why you wanted to get off the flight and try it. And a few of our athletes, on the elite track, did very similar things this CrossFit Open. You know, for our elite guys, whose goal is really, you guys are trying to peak for semi-finals.
Yeah.
You know, we don't really want to be redoing CrossFit Open workouts because, again, just that added intensity and volume just essentially is requiring more resources for you to recover from, which means that you can't potentially operate at your best come semi-finals. But at the same time, there is important psychological, mental wins that you can pick up along the way by redoing a workout and like proving to yourself that you can improve and do things differently. Yeah. And that's really how I felt. I haven't had that feeling in a really, really long time. So I just wanted to see if I could do it. I think I created a lot of like stories in my head which told me basically like, you can't do it, you're too old, you're too broken, you got too many other priorities in your life, you can't do this stuff anymore. And I was like, you know what, no, I'm just going to try it. And it's the first time I've literally walked into a gym just being like, I'm going to do it, deciding then and there. And it was really cool because I didn't stress about it all weekend because I didn't plan on redoing it. And I was just like, all right, I'm just going to try a few handstand push-ups with this new position, and if it feels good, I'm just going to do this workout. And I did, and it was a lot better. I got through handstand push-ups like almost 40 seconds faster. So I had a much better tie break time as well in the first piece, and I ended up hitting a snatch. So like I felt very, very proud of myself for doing that again. Yeah. And it's really fired me up, you know, now that the Open's done, to want to do harder stuff physically again. Nice. Knowing that my body can do it, like I can do it. My body's not going to break. It's more resilient than I think.
Until you have to snatch 100 kg.
Until
as a first 100 kg.
Yeah. Okay, can I ask you, world placing, was this a good year relative to your last 10 Opens?
I actually haven't even checked.
Okay.
I'm sure I'm gotten through to the quarterfinals.
Okay, interesting. So you're really not looking at leaderboard?
Yeah, I haven't checked the whole Open.
Nice.
I just know that I validated my score. That's enough.
Yeah.
And someone sent me a message saying, congratulations, you made it to the quarters. So I guess I've gone through.
Well, this is my worst world placing, I think.
Oh, is it? I wouldn't be surprised if mine's not great either.
As a percentile, this is the worst placing I've ever had in a CrossFit Open. But I also know that I got two of my biggest weaknesses: a 1 rep max thruster and lots of strict handstand push-ups. My biggest weaknesses in the sport got exposed in 2 tests. So I'm not surprised. Yeah. So I'm still happy actually that if my 2 weaknesses can get exposed in half the tests, that I could still finish in the 95th percentile. I'm actually really happy with that.
Yeah.
Cool.
What place were you worldwide?
I don't look at that.
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I just look at my percentile.
Oh, okay.
I will say that now my first year of being a Masters, my worldwide ranking as a percentile is higher than my 35 to 39. So which basically means that the 35 to 39 worldwide
less
leaderboard,
people, I guess, and
less people, but also better athletes.
Yeah.
So that's surprising. Part of me thought, now that I'm a Masters, I'm just going to crush it. I'm going to the games.
Does that fill you with confidence going into a few weekends' time where you got to do the Masters quarterfinal?
Yeah, because now that my 2 weaknesses are out of the way, I'm going to the games.
Fair enough. What if there's a wall-facing handstand push-up?
Oh, then I'm dead. I'm last place.
You have to cycle 83 kg thrusters like last chance.
Nah, come on, boss. If he puts heavy thrusters in again, then
there's only 1 thruster though.
Yeah, that's enough.
People really only did 5 thrusters max.
Yeah, that's true. I was also going to say about programming. I would say that overall amount of squatting volume was very low.
Yeah,
very low for a CrossFit. 40 wall balls.
And
honestly, like 3 thrusters.
Yeah,
and squat snatches if you needed to.
Yeah.
Other than that, for CrossFit event, very low.
Now you're worried about.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about it. Shit.
I was good. I actually wanted to test the high rep thruster because we've been doing quite a lot of work with that as well. And I feel like I've made some improvements there. I always bitch out every year on a high rep thruster workout when I know I should do well, and I always puss out of it. And this year I really wanted to test it, and then there wasn't. It was the first. As soon as I saw the thrust on the second one, I was like, that means unless he's really going to shoot himself in the foot and get shouted at by a lot of people, he's not going to put thrusters in the last workout in a high rep format.
Well, I'm sure you're going to have an opportunity in the quarterfinals.
As long as it's not that stupid friendly Fran workout, then I'm happy.
I love thruster workouts because it's where I always beat younger. Okay, moving on. So now we've kind of touched on this slightly. Having seen the 4 tests over the 3 weeks of the CrossFit Open, what have we learned from this year, and how will we prepare athletes differently for next season? What are some of your thoughts to jump out?
Got to do heavier absolute strength work as well. You've got to be strong in the sport. Last year, didn't need that really. I guess a 225 deadlift was all you needed for 100 reps. But yeah, so you got to be strong. Strength, speed, obviously. If it's testing a thruster this year, Probably won't be a thruster again next time, but there's going to be some sort of heavy lift, or there might be a possibility of a heavy lift. More complexity in the open. It basically leaves a door wide open for any and every movement you can think of. Mm-hmm. A new movement again, a burpee pull up. In this case, it could be anything, a burpee, whatever you choose it to be. Even the burpee itself might be a pogo style burpee. You know, there's just so many endless possibilities. So yeah, I think it's cool. I like the fact that there was a new movement in there. I also like the fact that there was a new standard in there with the handstand push-up. I've also tried that for kipping handstand push-ups, and it's much, much, much harder than...
That's where I think I would go fingers away from that.
I tried, it's still bloody hard.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, I'm quite thick back to front, so it makes it a bit more challenging for me, I think.
Yeah, I would say it was a good standard that worked for a lot of people because it gave them the option to like go wider.
Yeah.
I would still say I still don't know if it's perfect. I like the year where they did the measurement. I think the intentions were good. Yeah. The intentions to like basically change a standard based upon how someone is built. Yeah. I love the idea of it. It wasn't a success because of, we know that lever lengths for different people had made it very hard for some people. But I still think, this still favors the smaller athlete and it punishes the bigger athlete. Yeah. So for someone with a very wide set of shoulders, so like you have a tall male over 6 foot, that line, even if you go thumbs on the corners, is still going to be a fairly narrow handstand push-up. Yeah. Whereas for a 5 foot female, that's like a very short range of motion.
You can always just get some thumb tape and then make it really, really long.
Nice.
And then you got extra long thumb.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, I saw someone do it on Instagram.
Really? Yeah. Awesome. I think something that I'm thinking about, I agree with everything you're saying. Although I think keep that in mind in program this year. I knew that I wanted to keep absolute strength up there. Yeah. We're definitely still going to be a bias towards developing people's aerobic capacity across the time domains that we're seeing. We're still seeing 15 minutes, 20 minutes, being time domains that are going to be tested. We've seen that repeatedly. Obviously the sprint style workout, we've got to be exposing people to that, which I think we did on our Saturday testers. Yeah. I also just think, with Bosman programming, I like that I love that he's adding new movements to the sport at all the levels. So I think we're going to see like new variations of movements, new iterations of movements come up at quarterfinals. We saw the CrossFit Games had loads of new things like triple unders, the press to handstands, the parallel bars, the pirouettes, like all those things. Like even the strength tests, like the yoke deadlift, clean workout, something like that. Yeah. I love the idea of like broadening our potential testing parameters in the sport. Yeah. Because what that means as a programmer, we can just get a lot more creative now. And I think why I think that's important, because someone could say, why can't you just get creative anyway? Is sometimes when you get too creative as a programmer, people complain and say that this isn't CrossFit. That's something we hear all the time. Yeah. Right. But knowing now that the person in charge, with the circus background, and he's trying to challenge the complexity and add new movements. We saw 2 new movements in the Open this year. Normally there's kind of like a golden rule where it's like there'll be 1 new movement only. Yeah. But I love that now, and I want to get more creative with seeing how we can challenge movement. So things like the wall facing handstand push up in the games last year, that added a new dimension to our training this year, because it meant there's a new skill that we had to unlock. Yeah. Right. We had to develop capacity with that. Handstand walking is no longer just about doing ramp and stairs or flat lines. Like you've got to be able to do turns and twists and maybe go sideways or maybe go backwards. Like I like that kind of stuff, because it means that, especially for people who've been in the sport for longer, you can just continue to challenge them with complexity. Yeah. And not necessarily just have to make things harder or heavier or more intense. Yeah. And I think that's just going to make the sport a lot more fun.
Yeah, agreed.
So something I'm actually started doing, I just told you before this, is I'm going to CrossFit.com more now. Something I probably didn't do that much this year, but I do think that, I've gone back through some of the archives to kind of like December, January, November, and seen how burpee pull-ups were coming up quite regularly in the program. And I think, Bosman actually stated that as well. Like if you've been following CrossFit.com, you would have seen this as a movement that we tested and have tried. So I think that's something I'm going to look at more.
True.
Okay. Next question. Your mindset in the CrossFit Open, how has that evolved over the years?
I think that's probably indicative of the answer I just gave you in the last question, where you said, where did I finish worldwide? Normally I would be on that leaderboard for 5 weeks in a row, like every day, just looking at it, being like, oh, fucking hell, dropped another place. Oh, God, going down 10 more places. Oh, God, 100, and this year I actually didn't look. It almost just becomes, again, like, yes, of course I take the test seriously. And it's not like I'm just breezing through it. I want to take it seriously. I want to give it my best effort, which is why I did 23.3 repeated times. But there's certainly less pressure on me to perform well. Before everything rode on the Open. If I wasn't top 10, I wasn't going to regionals in Australia. So now it's like, okay, you just got to be in the top percentile, 10 percentile. Really, I could walk through it if I needed to. So that definitely takes the pressure off. But again, I still execute each workout as if it was like a quarterfinal style workout or a semi-final style workout. I still want to give it my best crack. I still want to develop a strategy in my head, execute my warm-up, execute my cool-downs after executing, hopefully, the perfect workout for me. So, when I did screw it up in 23.3, I was like, right, that wasn't good enough. Luckily, I get a second chance or a third chance at it. So I wanted to make amends with it. There's still like a lot of personal pride on the line when I do it. But not so much that I feel I need to compare myself on a leaderboard yet. I'm sure when I get to quarterfinals, it's another step up. There's much higher level athletes there, and it's a much more condensed field of athletes. So I'll need to make sure that I'm doing enough. And if that means that, like, hey, like, you didn't pull your finger out in that workout, you need to do better. Okay, now you're versus me being like, oh, I think that was good enough. It's like, no, it's actually not good enough now. Comparative to the rest of the world, you need to do it again and get a better score. So there's a lot more pressure on. So that's quarterfinals, semifinals. I mean, more quarterfinals, semifinals. The years previous, because it was online for me because of COVID, I had the chance to kind of redo that. But now it's quarterfinals. It's like, okay, you stop monkeying around. It's like, you got to pull your finger out and push real hard and make sure you get the best results that you can possibly do. Ideally, just a one and done if you can, but sometimes you have to face it and just be like, shit, I got to do that again, even though I don't want to do it again.
Would you say you still deal with stress during the Cross Open? Like, you, personally, with your own performances and you as the athlete? I know it can be stressful as a business owner and as a coach.
Yeah. No, not really.
No.
I don't think so. I think just, like I said, just pressure that I put on myself.
And what are those pressures that you put on yourself?
I still have an expectation to, I have like a rough number in my head of where I think I can get to on a workout. And I do compare myself to the guys that often do the announcements. I think I'm at that level for a lot of the movements or a lot of the workouts. So I definitely put myself in that boat as well. So that can be like my litmus test as well. Okay, how far am I 50 reps away from what they're hitting? Okay, shit, like maybe I need to do something else. Maybe like I need to have a look at my strategy and redo that again. Or, but no, there isn't that much pressure really. It's just, I think previous years, people messaging me on social media that I might not know, or people reaching out and being like, oh God, what happened in that workout? Like, why are you so low down? I'm like, that was actually my best effort. I don't know why I was so low down, but I just treat that as conversation now. It doesn't bother me at all because I know it's not important in the grand scheme of where I need to be at the end of the season.
Yeah, nice.
How about you? Do you feel like you...
No, I mean, the leaderboard really doesn't play a part for me, and it hasn't done for many years. I think it's something that I realized probably in about 2016 was the year where I had the squat clean workout, and I'm going to hospital. I think that's 2016.
Where you berated that poor lady for
running
walking
in front of me. Yeah,
poor
that was like a turning point for me in the Crossfit Open, where I realized that it's like the Open doesn't matter. Like, life goes on. People aren't actually looking at
life didn't go on. She was upset for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. We should tell that story another time.
I got a video of that as well if you want.
But yeah, I just realized that people aren't looking at your scores. People don't care. Once the Open's done, life moves on.
Yeah.
And it's like, we create so much insecurity and uncertainty and anxiety in our own heads because of what we think everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
And I just know through many other life experiences that's not the case. Also knowing that in most of the last years, like, the Open hasn't really meant anything. Like, it's meant to get into quarterfinals, but as someone who pretty much always finishes in the top 1 to 2 percentile, kind of like you, like, I know I can hit the Open workouts with 90% effort and probably do enough to make it to quarters. I've always wanted to get to quarterfinals because I enjoy seeing what the tests are. I enjoy doing the tests. I enjoy challenging myself, and I enjoy being relevant in the sport. Like, I enjoy experiencing what I put my athletes through. Like if I can gain firsthand knowledge of what my athletes are having to go through as an athlete, I think that just makes me a much more capable coach, which is, like why I wanted to redo that last workout. Like it just gave me like mentally and psychologically some really big learnings that I think I can pass on to other people now, having, if there's other people who are in a similar position to me, don't want to push and don't want to get uncomfortable, like I can share that experience now and be like, this is what it did for me. Maybe it's something that can help you. So yeah, I would say that I still do get like butterflies and anxiety, I guess. I guess it's more like nervousness, but I think that's more around the fact that I'm about to do something really hard.
Yeah.
And, thinking about the first workout, I didn't have that because I thought this is a repeat. In 2014, I did 19 muscle ups with a false grip in singles.
Yeah.
So if I even go 70%, I'm going to crush that score. That's generally what my mindset was going into it. So I can just basically walk through this workout, and because of my technique and efficiency is so much better than everything, I'm going to destroy that. I'm going to get back on that rower.
Yeah.
And because of that mindset, I didn't. I basically got the muscle ups probably even slower than I did in 2014 because I was so slow and just didn't have enough time to finish them.
Yeah.
So yeah, going back to what I was saying, in that first workout, I didn't have those butterflies or anxiety because I'm like, this is going to be a breeze. Yeah. This is just like any other workout. And then after learning from that, being like, I don't want to do that. I'm disappointed in myself for not using this opportunity to test myself, which is why I do competitions. The next two workouts, I definitely felt like that anxiety a bit more. Yeah. Like the butterflies, the nervousness, the like running to the toilet multiple times before the workout. But that's just because my body's preparing for war, because I'm basically saying like, I'm ready to hurt here.
Yeah.
But certainly like, this year I would basically wake up every morning on a Friday, go straight to my computer, which is normally, I never do that. It's normally like an hour before I sit in front of a screen, because basically we had to do lots of admin type stuff for the process, programming, changing workouts, getting graphics out on social media on strategies and tips, creating all that stuff. And that was kind of my role this year to do that. So I was basically getting straight out of bed, straight to the computer, straight onto the games website, look at the workout. And even in that process, I didn't have that like uncomfortable nervousness or like the anxiety as to what the workout is. I was very calm and just like, okay, cool, workout's this, blah, 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 do all the work. Whereas I know in previous years, like, watching the announcement would be like sweaty palms and like elevated heart rates, high blood pressure, all that kind of stuff. I don't have that anymore.
Yeah, agreed. I think this year's the first time when 23.1 came out. I did it by myself. I'd never normally do workouts by myself in the open. There's always like 3 or 4 people doing it with me. I literally just did it by myself and actually just wanted to have fun with it, because there's nothing about the workout that scared me at all. There's nothing I was like, oh, it's a new movement, don't know what it's going to be like. It's not like, oh, there's a heavy thrust at the end, I might not be amazing at that. It was like, okay, I feel super prepared for all these movements. I'm just going to... I actually had no strategy, no game plan.
Do you sometimes feel though when you see a workout which has a lot of things in your wheelhouse, do you feel sometimes even more nervous about that? Because I know a lot of people do. But a lot of that nervousness for those people is because they think that people expect them to do well.
Yeah, the amount of donkeys that came up to me about, oh, mate, this workout is amazing for you. I'm just like, every workout's amazing for me. It doesn't matter, I literally... Because
what you're really saying is
that,
what you're really saying is that that's not what you think about.
No, I don't think about that.
I'm exactly the same.
Yeah, when people are like, that's amazing for you, I'm like, well, every workout should be amazing for me, because I should be able to strategize and I should have put in the work over the year, so it's going to be amazing for me either way.
I do think that mindset of like, this is a good workout for me, this is not a good workout, this is a bad movement, this is a good movement, all stems from the ego side of us who are comparing us to others.
Yeah.
When really at the end of the day, if it's just about giving your best effort and trying as hard as you possibly can, then you're right. There shouldn't be good and bad movements. Yeah. It's only relative to the people you're competing against.
Or you. Depends, on who you are.
But what makes something good or bad? Because you can't compare. If you have nothing to compare your ability to, no other people, then who says what a good 20 strict handstand push-ups for time score is versus a 1 rep max thruster?
True. Yeah.
What are some of the classic things that you see from a mindset perspective of people in the CrossFit Open? Maybe the not so positive things that we see.
I think that first thing that you just said there is like people labeling a workout that's good and bad for them.
Yeah.
That's
and
so
what
often.
And what are the knock-on effects of saying and having that mindset?
Well, you pigeonhole yourself into doing poorly in a workout, or you pigeonhole yourself into like giving yourself an expectation of like, this is just going to be shit. As soon as you have any sort of negativity around whatever you're doing, whether it's a workout, whether it's work, whether it's your kids, whether it's, whatever it is, it's not going to be as enjoyable. And if it's not as enjoyable, you're more likely than not going to do well in, whatever the expectation is.
Yeah. I'd also say that the moment we put a label on anything, we are looking for the universe to prove that we're right.
Yeah.
So if we say that we're not going to be good at this workout, what we're actually looking for is for the universe to prove that we're not good at that workout. So we can say, see, told you I wasn't going to be good at that workout.
Yeah.
So I think that's where positive mindset and people will have the argument to say like, but you have to be real, you have to be realistic. I totally agree with that. Yeah. But still taking a positive approach to the way that you think about things, and especially challenges, is going to generally set you up for success more.
Yeah, agreed. Also, a lot of people, especially with the redo, a lot of people have been like, oh, I'm going to be worse than like before. Oh, I'm not as fit as I was before. Oh, I haven't been doing this as much as before. And again, because they know there's now data that they can compare it to versus just the room that you're in or the leaderboard that you're going to go on, they feel more pressure as well. I heard that from quite a few of my guys. The guys that I work closely with on the process, and like, oh, this is not going to be a good one for me. I haven't done that as much as I did back then. It's like, don't worry about it. Again, the Open is a chance to test yourself, but that's not the be all and end all of it with fitness or with your life. There's still so many other tests out there that you're going to encounter this year. There's so many things that you've done really, really, really well. If this is just not the one that you've put that much time into, then that's okay. That's not a problem, So people like put so much emotion into it that it becomes detrimental to things. I think that's one thing as well. Like you said before, like it's just a workout. It's just a leaderboard. People forget about it in 24 hours. No one's going to be coming and calling back, oh my God, did you see how John Smith did? That was horrendous. And even if they do, I'm not going to remember John Smith's horrendous performance the next day. So, it's not that important.
And let's be honest, people got their own shit to worry about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think comparison is something that takes a lot of the joy out of the CrossFit Open for a lot of people, and just competition in general. So that can be comparison between like other people in your gym or other people on the floor. Maybe seeing someone beat you in a workout who's next to you in the next lane. Yeah. That then suddenly means that you're a complete failure, and it removes all success from that workout. Yeah. And of course, the leaderboard does the same in many ways as well. And I think we believe in the same thing, which is ultimately like it comes down to things that you can actually control.
For sure.
And the things you can actually control in something like CrossFit Open is like your preparation leading into it, the execution of things like your pacing, your strategy, and really like the amount of effort you give to it. Yeah. And really wherever, if you can give 100% to those three things, the result is an accurate result.
Yeah.
And it is just what it is.
Yeah.
But, if you
that's
can
how you build your next year, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think how many times we see people execute those three things at 100%, and then they see where that leads them on the leaderboard, and suddenly it's like it was a complete failure. Yeah. We're less fit than last year. What's the point? I don't enjoy this. So I think, the more, and I think that's a practice that you can't just do at the CrossFit Open. It's something you need to be thinking about in your everyday life. Yeah. It's a skill you need to cultivate, that mindset. So if you're generally someone who has that approach to everything in your life, the likelihood is across the Open is going to roll around, and you're going to have that same mindset there as well. So if that's something that you realize you do and it's something you want to try to improve, well, then look at other areas of your life and see if you're doing similar things. Are you thinking in a similar way? Is comparison taken away from the enjoyment or the success of the things that you're doing?
Yeah. I think one thing as well that I guess people don't talk about as much, but as coaches we can see it, is when people do poorly compared to their expectations and then try and play it off as like, I don't give a shit. Yeah. I really don't like that. Yeah. That winds me up to it like a lot.
Yeah. Really Why do you think people do that?
I think it's the same thing. It's just insecurity, comparison to other people. Sometimes like people are like so stoked, like you said, they're so stoked, they give you a high five and they're buzzing. And they come in on Monday and they're like, fuck, I'm so shit. It's like, well, you're not. Again, like that's an honest reflection of where you are, and that's just okay. It's not a problem. And you don't need to be upset about that. It's, that's life. Just get on with it, really. Yeah. You do your analysis of it. What led you to this position? Oh, I didn't do 50 toes to bar or like high density toes to bar in the year. That's the reason. Or my back was messed up, which is why I couldn't do the power cleans. I haven't been power cleaning for 6 months, whatever it is. Yeah. But then, like we said, that will build your next 12 months of training before you come back to the next CrossFit Open.
I think where the leaderboard is powerful is that it can be really motivating for a lot of people. I would say that if your motivators for progress are based on other people, then that's probably going to be short-lived. Like try not to tie your success to beating other people, because if you do end up beating that person, what next? Yeah. And when this is all done, what else? Like you can't just continue to compare yourself to others in every aspect of your life. So it can be something intrinsic, I would say, that gives you more longevity in the sport. Yeah. Whereas if it's something that's extrinsic, it can still serve as a great motivator, but don't make it your everything. Yes. Yeah. I think the leaderboard is really important if you are an athlete who's looking to progress to the next stage and you need to finish at a certain position. Yeah. For example, if you want to make it to the quarterfinals, you have to finish in the top 10%. Yeah. And then you have the leaderboard gives you fantastic data to tell you for this set of tests what you have to be able to do to be in the top 10%. And then you can use that information to then dictate your training next year. Okay, well, it's clear that my priorities for me are strict handstand push-ups and a 1 rep max thruster. So if that was to show up next year, what am I going to do about it? Yeah. I'm going to put in the work this year. And I think the same can be said for, if there's anything where a certain placing is required, use that leaderboard to your advantage. Look at the people who are finishing ahead of you. Where are they excelling? Where you are not? And then relative to your competition, that's just what you have to work on.
Yeah. True.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it. Apart from I'm a bit worried if there's kipping handstand push-ups in the next stage and they use that standard. That's the only thing I've been thinking about.
I feel like this standard was only made because we'll walk through in the workout. And I don't know. That's
but the Masters did it with that standard. The Masters did it with kipping handstand push-ups on that standard.
Last year?
This year. In the workout, because they didn't do strict, they did kipping.
Oh, yeah, I think that makes sense, though, because everyone else is doing it. But, yeah, who knows? Because,
I'm pretty thick, but I'm not the thickest athlete out there. So there's going to be people who will really struggle with that standard.
Yeah, I should probably practice that.
Yeah, you should. my fingertip was literally right on the corner.
Yeah.
And it was still hard.
Cool. Okay, and just want to say well done on another superb Open.
Thank you.
Good luck for the rest of your season.
Thank you.
Sure you're going to crush it. And well done to everyone who took part in the CrossFit Open. I mean, I always applaud anyone for stepping in the arena, doing uncomfortable things physically or mentally. Hope you guys had a great time. I'm sure you had lots of learnings from it. Super excited to be getting back to rebuilding with the process community and taking the learnings from this year's Open and getting people even more prepared for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Till next time.